Hey man, I can't hear the bass, and it's not loud enough. Hey, I don't hear the drums. That's some of the conversation you hear in the studio when you're recording a rock group. It's some of the conversation in the studio when you're recording a soul group or any group. They're all interested in their guitars and their instrument and their drums. They all want to be up there. Well, now we have as a special guest, independent record producer, who is Steve Scharf. Let's make a nice welcome for him, please. Steve, are you working with any groups lately?
Yes, I'm working with a group called Pictures, who I produce with my partner Neil Tiemann. We've been working with the group for 1.5 years now.
Where did you find the group?
I found them out of Syracuse. When I was working in a record company about 2 years ago, I originally heard a demo tape by the group and liked the group very much, was not in a position to do anything with them at that time, and then about 2 years later, an attorney, another person turned me on to the group again. I originally saw them in a club called Haraz here in New York, and made contact with the group, talked to them about producing them. We got together contracts, put together the situation, and we recorded.
Let me ask you a question. When you heard them, when you heard the group, what was the first thing that impressed you? Was it their looks? Was it their musicianship? Was it their songs? Was it their vocal? What?
It was their vocal quality, the melodies and the hooks. Hooks meaning the choruses of the songs. The songs were, some of the songs were really good. Most of them were not that good. Their look was not that together either. They sung well, they played very well, but there was a lot to be desired in terms of presenting to a record company at that point in time.
All right, when you went to the group and you said, fellas, I'm a record producer and I really would like to record you, what happened? Did suddenly a person come out from the wings and say, I'm their manager? Or did they come on with an attitude like, well, wait a second, we don't know you? What happened?
They did have a manager who was a local manager, and he was not that strong, and he's no longer with that band at this point.
Got rid of him,
They got rid of him, yes. And no, they're different. They're not from the city. They're country type people. They don't come on that strong, so people from out of town are a little bit easier to deal with, I think, than city people. They were curious to know what I had done, what I could do for them. They were talking to other producers at the time who had a bigger track record than I did. And
Wait, what is track record?
Sure, track record meaning producers who had records out or had hits previous to myself. And they were talking to them as well. And we sort of hit it off very well. We talked the same musical language, so to speak, and it all came together. I think that's very important. I think communication is the main thing in making a record with an artist.
Now, if a soul group came to you, and would it be important that they feel that you understand soul music?
Absolutely.
It would?
I think so. I mean, if they were smart, they would. I particularly do not produce black type records or soul records. I love the music, I love to listen to it, but it's not really in my heart, and it's not what I grew up on. And I feel that the kind of music I grew up on was rock and pop music.
Let me ask you a question. What about the attitudes of groups? Do you find that groups come along and say, we're great, we're the greatest thing in the world, and in other words, their attitude almost sets up the barrier between the relationship of the producer and themselves. Their first attitude.
Yeah, most groups have attitudes. Most artists do. I mean, I think that you have to have some type of an attitude if you're going to survive and make it in this business. The attitude doesn't have to be negative. It can be very positive. In the case of this particular band, they didn't have that kind of... They knew that they were good, but they didn't feel that they were at the potential of where they could be to become big stars. You know?
I know Bobby and I get tapes from all over the country, and reading the letters sometime that comes with the tape almost indicates where their head is at. Like, dear sirs, we're sending you this tape and we're really interested to know what is your experience and what have you done before you even contact us. Don't you get sometimes letters with tapes like that?
Good evening, Steve.
Hello.
Welcome to the Lucy Stallman Sermonette. Now don't get excited. I know you sense my feverish lust to interview you. What was that question that you just asked me?
I said, don't you get letters sometimes where they come with an attitude, or people come up to your office with an attitude?
I get letters from people from all walks of life. I mean, I get letters from people that are incarcerated. I get letters from cab drivers in Des Moines, Iowa, and generally you get the sense of, you know, their enthusiasm and their desire to get involved in the music business one way or other. My question for you is, though,
Yes.
what makes a person want to produce records? Because you know you're going to take on the attitudes. You know you're going to take on the personality clashes of this variety of individuals. You know you're in for nothing but headaches with it, you know, because I've done it myself. And I continually ask myself, why did you get involved in this in the first place? Why do you get involved in these things?
Well, I've always wanted to be in the music business. And I think when I was about 16 years old, I knew I wanted to become a record producer.
A producer, per se.
A record producer.
You don't want to open a record shop and
No.
close up the door at 5 o'clock and
Not at
say
all.
it's over.
No, and since high school I pursued it, and over the last 11, 12 years I made my way through the business and doing all different types of things. I produced, I managed groups, I was a writer for trade publications, I worked in record companies, I did promotion, I did this, I did a lot of different things in the business, which I think you need to have knowledge of to really create and conquer the industry totally, have a total scope of what's going on. And when I was young, I listened to radio. I loved records that were on the radio. There was a lot of crap records on the radio, records that I didn't think deserved to be on the radio. And I just wanted to make really good music that would be on the radio to make people happy and make myself happy too, of course.
So then you're going to contribute to this society what you feel is the coming thing. Having listened to and heard pictures, I think you got something happening there. I really do. Having knowledge of your track record, I have great respect for what it is that you're capable of. And ladies and gentlemen, very honestly, this man's going to bring us some hits real soon.
We wish you a lot of luck, by the
Thank
way.
you.
The group is called Pictures.
Right.
We're going
Lots
to
of
watch
luck,
for him.
Steve. Now we're going to take a break for another commercial, and we'll be right back with a new special artist. Listen. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.